They say every old town hides a secret it hopes no one will ever uncover. For Ethan Graves, a 52-year-old contractor from the city, that secret came to life in the most horrifying way. It started with an unusual job offer, a historical building restoration on the outskirts of a nearly abandoned town named Hollow Creek. The place had that eerie, unsettling santungon, the kind that wraps around your neck like a noose, leaving you breathless. Ethan had seen his fair share of derelict structures, but the Hollow Creek mill was different. Standing tall against the dying sunlight, its rotting wooden frame creaked under the wind's weight. Locals avoided the site, whispering vague warnings about what lay beneath. Ethan scoffed at such tales, a practical man hardened by years of construction work. Yet, a shiver ran down his spine as he approached the mill's entrance, its rusted hinges groaning open like a dying man's last breath. By the third day of inspection, Ethan found what the old schematics didn't show: a hidden trapdoor beneath layers of dirt and old machinery. Curiosity mixed with professional pride, and against his better judgment, he pried it open. The smell hit him first: damp, mold, and something else. Something metallic, like rust or dried blood. The air itself felt heavier down there, suffocating. Armed with a flashlight and sheer stubbornness, Ethan descended into the darkness. The wooden ladder groaned under his weight, each creak echoing into the void. The beam of light trembled slightly in his grasp as he took in the sight. An ancient dungeon, stone walls covered in strange symbols, chains bolted deep into the rock. "What the hell is this place?" he muttered, his voice unnaturally loud in the suffocating silence. Something about the air tasted wrong, thick, coppery, like breathing in death itself. Determined to explore, Ethan moved deeper, his boots scraping against the stone floor. Then came the discovery that would haunt him. Human remains, brittle and scattered, some still chained to the walls. His stomach churned, bile rising in his throat. What had he stumbled into? A mass grave? A torture chamber? He could almost hear their screams lingering in the air. The light caught on the deep scratch marks etched into the stone. Claw marks, frantic, desperate. Ethan's throat dried up. Jesus, they tried to claw their way out. A metallic rattle echoed faintly behind him. Spinning around, he caught sight of something. No, someone, just beyond the beam, gone in a blink. His heart hammered against his chest, skin prickling. "I'm seeing things," he whispered, but even his voice trembled. Just as he turned to leave, something cold brushed against his neck. Spinning around, Ethan found nothing but darkness. "Get a grip, Ethan," he hissed. But the feeling remained, that sickening sensation of being watched. The air grew colder, his breath now visible in the dim light. A whisper, faint but distinct, echoed through the chamber. "You shouldn't be here." Ethan bolted for the ladder, but the dungeon seemed to stretch endlessly now. Panic clawed at him as his flashlight flickered. In the distance, the sound of chains dragging across stone filled the air. Each step felt heavier, his body weighed down by invisible hands. His mind raced. Was this a hallucination? Some gas leak? No, this was something else. Shadows began crawling along the walls, flickering like they were alive. When he finally found the ladder, his relief was short-lived. The trapdoor above had slammed shut. "No, no, no!" he yelled, banging against the wood until his hands bled. From the depths below, a guttural growl rose, freezing him in place. The sound was not human. Something was down there, and it was waking up. He could feel it moving, slithering through the dark. Tears streamed down his face as the hopelessness consumed him. Please, someone, help me. But there was no one, only the dead, and whatever kept them there. The growls turned to whispers, voices overlapping, calling his name. Ethan, Ethan, you are ours now. Hours or maybe days passed. Ethan couldn't tell. He huddled in a corner, the flashlight dead, the cold gnawing at his flesh. Shadows moved around him, whispering secrets he couldn't understand. Faces appeared in the dark, twisted in agony, eyes hollow. They didn't speak, but screamed in silence. Each scream clawed at his sanity. At some point, he began to hallucinate. Or maybe it was real. Rotting hands clawed out of the ground, reaching for him. He lashed out, screaming, but they didn't stop. They dragged him toward the center of the dungeon, where a massive stone altar stood. Dark stains marred its surface. The whispers now roared. Sacrifice. Feed. Ethan realized then. The dungeon wasn't just a place. It was a tomb. A prison for souls long forgotten. And now, he was part of it. The ground trembled as unseen chains coiled around him. A final scream tore from his throat, unheard by the world above. His body convulsed, then stilled as the darkness swallowed him whole. The chains rattled once more, and then there was only darkness. It was one of those evenings when the air carried a heavy silence, broken only by the faint ticking of the old wall clock. Michael had just returned home from work, exhausted and longing for a quiet night. At 48, the mundane routine of life had dulled his thirst for adventure. But that night, as he checked his emails, one message stood out, a private invitation to an exclusive historical tour. The subject line read, "Unveiling the Forgotten Dungeon, a once-in-a-lifetime experience." Michael frowned, curiosity prickling his skin. The sender was anonymous, the message brief. Hidden beneath the city lies a dungeon untouched for centuries. Only for the brave, one night only. Attached was a location, an old forgotten street Michael barely remembered. Logic told him to ignore it, but something pulled him in. "What's the worst that could happen?" he muttered, completely unaware that question alone would haunt him for the rest of his life. The following evening, Michael arrived at the location. Narrow cobblestone streets greeted him, eerily empty except for dim, flickering lanterns. There was something unsettling about the place, as if time itself had abandoned it. He stood there, staring at a rusted iron gate embedded into a stone wall. A thin, pale man emerged from the shadows. "Mr. Carter," the man rasped. "You came." Michael's throat tightened. "Yeah, I guess I did." The man smiled unnervingly and produced an ancient-looking key. "Follow me." No further words were exchanged. As the gate creaked open, Michael felt a chill run down his spine. The descent into darkness began. Narrow, crumbling steps spiraling down, lit only by the dim lantern in the guide's trembling hand. The air grew colder with every step. Michael's breathing became shallow, heart thumping louder than his footsteps. The guide whispered, "This dungeon, it was sealed after the Great Purge of 1724. No one's set foot here since." That single line caused Michael to stop mid-step. Wait, why was it sealed? The guide gave a thin, eerie smile. "You'll see." The walls were damp, carved with cryptic symbols. some smeared with what looked like dried blood. The deeper they went, the stronger the stench of decay became. Michael gagged, eyes watering. He wanted to turn back, but pride and curiosity chained him. They finally reached a vast underground chamber. The dim light revealed rusted cages, shackles bolted into stone, and human remains. Skulls, femurs, ribs, scattered across the floor. Michael felt his stomach churn. This is real, he gasped. The guide nodded slowly. Torture, starvation, unspeakable things happened here. Michael felt his knees weaken. It was no ordinary dungeon. The air itself seemed alive, vibrating with the cries of the long dead. As Michael walked further, he spotted a wooden door, half rotten but strangely intact. The guide's eyes darkened. "Don't open that," he whispered. But it was too late. Michael's hand was already on the handle. The door creaked open, revealing a smaller chamber, pitch dark, except for one thing. A figure slumped against the wall, dressed in rags, its face hidden in shadow. "That's impossible," the guide stammered. Michael's voice trembled. "Is that a body?" Before either could react, the figure moved, slowly lifting its head. Hollow eyes stared back, skin pale as moonlight. Michael stumbled back, heart ready to explode. "You shouldn't have come here," the figure rasped. The guide screamed, his voice echoing through the dungeon. "Run, now!" But Michael stood frozen, staring at the impossible. The figure began to crawl, slow at first, then faster, its joints cracking unnaturally. Michael bolted, lungs burning as the guide sprinted ahead. "Don't look back," the guide cried, but curiosity broke him. He glanced over his shoulder. What he saw made him scream. The thing's face twisted, its mouth opening wider than humanly possible, a low growl vibrating through the stone walls. The tunnels twisted endlessly. Michael couldn't tell if he was running in circles or being led deeper. Shadows danced, whispers echoed, and the air felt like it thickened, choking him. "I'm not dying here," he yelled desperately, pushing forward with what little strength remained. Finally, they saw it. The iron gate. The guide reached it first, fumbling with the key. But then, he stopped. A cold grin spread across his face. "I lied," he whispered. "No one leaves." Michael's blood turned to ice. "What the hell are you talking about?" The guide dropped the key into the darkness. "They need someone. Someone new." Behind Michael, the crawling sound grew louder. "You set me up!" Michael screamed, lunging forward, but the gate slammed shut. The last thing Michael saw was the guide's pale face vanishing into the night as the darkness behind him swallowed everything. Michael turned to face his fate. The creature was there, closer now. It smiled, an expression not meant for human faces. "Stay," it whispered. "Stay forever." Michael's screams echoed, unheard by the world above. Weeks later, a missing persons report surfaced, but no one found the dungeon. The street was gone, vanished like it never existed. And somewhere deep underground, a new figure sat against the wall, silent, hollow-eyed, waiting. I still remember the exact moment I heard about the place. It was during a late dinner at a dimly lit bar just outside of Prague, the kind of place that seemed trapped in time. The locals called it the Hollow Cellar, a half-forgotten dungeon beneath an abandoned castle deep in the countryside. They spoke of it in hushed tones, as if the mere mention could awaken something buried down there. Some claimed it was once a prison for traitors, others swore it was a private torture chamber for a mad nobleman. I laughed it off, yet my curiosity took root immediately. It was Martin, an old friend from university, who extended the invitation. We hadn't spoken in years, but his message arrived out of nowhere. Ever wonder if those stories we heard were real? I found it. The hollow cellar exists. Meet me next weekend. I stared at the message, feeling that odd tingle at the back of my neck, where instinct meets dread. Against my better judgment, I agreed. How bad could it be? Just another silly ghost story, I thought, but God, how wrong I was. The countryside grew darker the further we drove, the road narrowing until only the weak beams of the car's headlights kept the suffocating shadows at bay. Trees arched above us like skeletal hands clawing at the sky. By the time we reached the crumbling gates of the castle, the air felt unnaturally still, heavy, as if even the wind dared not breathe here. Martin was waiting by the gate, pale and jittery, a thin smile forced onto his face. "You're late," he mumbled, avoiding my eyes. He led me inside without another word. The castle's interior was worse than I imagined. Decaying walls, rotting beams, and a stench of mold thick enough to taste. But what truly made my skin crawl was the trapdoor in the main hall, a rusted iron ring protruding from the wooden floor. "It's down there," Martin whispered, his voice cracking. I forced a laugh, but my throat was dry. With a groan, the trapdoor creaked open, exhaling a putrid breath from below. The old stone staircase spiraled into a void of blackness so complete it seemed alive. We descended slowly, our flashlights casting weak, trembling beams against the slick walls. The air grew colder, damper, and that stench, rot, blood, and something worse, thickened with every step. "Hear that?" Martin hissed suddenly. I stopped listening. Faint echoes. Were those whispers, or just the wind snaking through the stones? My heart hammered. "It's just the place settling," I muttered, convincing no one, least of all myself. We kept moving, the walls narrowing, until we had to walk single file, our shoulders scraping against the cold stone. The stairwell finally spat us out into a vast underground chamber. My lights swept over rusted iron chains, ancient racks and crude cages barely large enough for a man to crouch in. It was all real. The hollow cellar wasn't a myth. It was a goddamn nightmare made stone. I swallowed hard, my mouth dry as dust. "Jesus, Martin, what the hell is this?" He didn't answer. He stood frozen, staring at the far corner. That's when I saw it. Fresh chains bolted into the wall, gleaming, not rusted, new. "Who's been down here?" I whispered. Martin turned slowly, his face pale as chalk. "I don't know, but someone's been keeping it ready." A low creaking groan echoed from the tunnel we came through, and I swear I felt the air change, like something ancient had just woken up. We both jumped as a scream tore through the silence. High, shrill, and impossibly close. My blood ran cold. "That wasn't the wind," I stammered. Martin just shook his head wide-eyed. "No, I know." We stood frozen, our flashlights darting around like panicked animals. Another scream followed, distant yet close, bending the very air around us. Panic surged. "We need to leave. Now!" My voice cracked. Martin nodded, but his feet didn't move. "I think it wants us here," he whispered. That's when I noticed the tunnel. The way we came, it was gone. Only a wall of cold, slick stone stared back at us. No, 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 no. My knees buckled. Martin fell against the wall, his breathing ragged. It's changing. It doesn't want us to leave. Suddenly, the chamber lit up. Not from our lights, but from old iron sconces along the walls. Bursting into sickly yellow flames, I staggered back, gasping. The ground trembled and a deep, guttural laugh rumbled through the chamber. "Welcome!" a voice growled, echoing from nowhere and everywhere. Chains rattled. One of the cages creaked open slowly. I stared, horrified, as the door banged against the stone. "It wants us to play," Martin whispered. Before I could speak, the voice boomed again. "One leaves, one stays. Choose." My stomach twisted. "What the hell is this?" I screamed. Martin collapsed, sobbing. "It's true. The stories, they made people choose. That's how it fed." Time slowed. I stared at Martin, his eyes bloodshot, his hands trembling. "We're not doing this. There has to be another way." I barked. But the walls trembled and the voice laughed again. "Choose, or both stay forever." My mind raced. Was this real? A nightmare? But the pain, the cold, everything was too vivid, too raw. Martin looked up, tears streaming down his face. "You have a family, a life. I came here for this. I think it called me." I shook my head violently. "No, don't say that. We're getting out. Together." But even as I spoke, I saw the acceptance in his eyes. He was giving up. "Go," he whispered, "before it changes its mind." I don't remember running. I don't remember screaming. I only remember the blinding light as a door appeared where there had been nothing but stone. I burst through, stumbling into the night air, choking, gasping like a drowning man. Behind me, the castle loomed, silent and dark. Martin was gone. I collapsed on the cold ground, staring at the sky. Hours passed, maybe days. No one believed me. They said Martin was never there, that there was no hollow cellar. But I know what I saw, what I heard. And sometimes in the dead of night, I swear I still hear him screaming,